A strong person is not the one who does not cry. A strong person is one who's quiet and sheds tears for a moment and then picks up the sword and fights again. Hello, everyone. A very warm welcome to the series of soul awakening stories of women who have unleashed, who have rediscovered themselves, and have become a queen of rediscovery. Hi, my name is Narinder Kaur. I'm a woman empowerment coach and the founder of the Women Power Unleashed. I'm on a mission to help 100,000 women to live life of dignity, self-respect, honor, and healthy self-esteem. Today, we have a very special guest from Mumbai, India, Nanda Botadkar ji. I welcome Nanda ji to the Soul Awakening Stories Unleashed. Let me just give a brief about her. So Nanda ji is from Mumbai. She is a woman of values filled with love, compassion, empathy, and complete bliss. A mother, a daughter, social worker, deeply connected to social spirituality. She is a very well-known counseling psychologist. She upscaled her education, and from the last 4 years, she is working as a business leadership wellness coach. Amazing. She's on a mission to help young leaders transform into being exponentially successful. A woman of grith and never say die attitude. She had been through untold suppression in her married life. Never the one to give up, she led educating herself to become what she is today and who she is today. So, at a time when most women need the companionship, the most she lost her husband just as she turned 52. Another roller coaster of fight for survival ensued, and she stepped out beyond that into her power and became a well known coach. She firmly believes that her success lies in the thriving of her clients. Her intensive workshop every fortnight is full of quality takebacks. So let us welcome Nandaji and let us hear the story directly from her, from an ordinary woman to an extraordinary, and to hear about the extraordinary strength to stand up for herself, how she has done it. I welcome Nandaji.
Thank you, Ritu Narendraji. It is so nice to be over here. And you have said so much about me. You have kind of, capsulized my entire life and you have shared it. Yes, indeed. I am not one to, share about life in a way where I want to kind of, take some glory from those days and share it over here. But Narinder was sharing with me saying that, ma'am, it's people, ordinary women like us, who are an inspiration to women, who can share their day to day life stories about how they have come. Because few people get screened, or few people get spoken about, few people get written about or spoken about, and there is a the majority of the women who just lead their life full of strength and wisdom, and they just continue going. A few months ago, I had read a story about a woman who had run the longest marathon just so that she could, collect money for her husband's treatment. So such are the women of grit, and such are the women who carry on with life. So speaking about me, coming back to knowing about me and hearing about me, I was married at the tender age of about 20 and 20 and a half, I would say. Those days it was like girls should get married early, otherwise, we will not have enough choices left. And that is how I happened to get married. It was an arranged come kind of a love marriage, because being the wide-eyed innocent 20-year-old, I fell in love with a guy whom I was going to get married to. The families were known to us, and that's how I got married at the age of 20. The earlier years of marriage was, in those days, it was that a woman, once she's married, life is only about children and about taking on the responsibilities of the home. It was about, you're marrying not a man or a human being, it's not your life, you're marrying into a family. You're marrying the family. So it would then be taking on the responsibilities of the family. It means, you're living up to everything, every social interaction. You're measuring up as a businessman's wife, you're measuring up as a good daughter-in-law, you're measuring up as a sister-in-law, and the works. So the only plus point that worked for me is that I was very young. I was barely like getting over my teens, and I was already, into a relationship, as in a marriage, and a institution of marriage I was into. At the age of 22, I already had my first child. I had left my college and I was, already not even graduated when I got married. So when I had my child was in my lap when I was appearing for my final year graduation. Because after I got married and I started doing all the work, I realized that if I do not educate myself and if I do not, take on the what should I say, the courage or the strength to move forward with education. I did not have anything else to call my own. I was a barely college student just out, no financial independence, nothing there. Everything totally dependent on the husband and the family, which was also a very big joint family. So lots of things. So what I did was I continued to educate myself, and by then I already had a child. And with the child in my lap, I continued doing my finishing my education. The challenges that I share about was I was not allowed to study. I was not allowed to, like do things that a normal college student would be able to do. I had to finish the household chores, and then at midnight, after everybody has gone to sleep, I would go into the bathroom. I would switch on the light. I would clean the place. I would put a chadar there, a bed sheet. I would then sit there, and I would study because the light should not disturb anybody in the family. So while these were some of the most accepted ways of life, we didn't even think about it back then because we just felt it's a way of life. It's only when you look back you realize what you really have been through. So sitting in the bathroom, I educated myself, and once I wrote an article saying that, my graduation certificates is hanging there just above the commode. So it was said in jest to say that that was like a throne where I actually sat and I studied. So these were some of the challenges, and as I continued, life went on. I had a second child after 4 years. It never stopped. The demands were very high. We were not expected. Even a personal life was not, there was invasion even in the personal life. I would not like to go too much into details because both my mother-in-law and my husband are no more. I don't want to say anything that is not going to be, dignified to their memory. Because, like I said, they were people, they were humans who didn't know better, right?
Correct.
Though my husband was a gem of a human being. I lost him when he was about 52 years old, and 53. That was 2015. Everywhere people were celebrating the Indian festival of Diwali, and there were lights all around. People are lighting those little candles, and they're doing up their homes and everything. And just at that point of time, where everywhere people are celebrating the festivities of light, I lost the main connection or the main switch of my life that brought all the light and all the fun element into life. No matter how hard life was when I was younger and I was bringing up my children or I was living with a larger family, my husband was the biggest support ever. So many times he when I was expecting and I was still having to do household chores and I couldn't keep up, he would secretly wash the clothes and keep it, like the little elf who helps Santa to complete all the work. So he would help me in every which way. But somehow, maybe because of our tradition, our culture, or maybe the way we are, he couldn't stand up to his family. And then at that particular day, that's the second day of Diwali, which in India we celebrate as the New Year's Day, Indian New Year's Day, when everybody was lighting lamps and looking forward to a new financial year. That's what the New Year really means in the Indian context. He was no more. Both of us were going to visit the temple, and it so happened that he was just he just said that I am choking and I'm not feeling well. Can we go later? I said absolutely no problem. Why don't we just go up and rest? I'll give you some warm water. Maybe you will feel better. And that was the day when I got him. I had 30 seconds to come up the lift from ground floor to the 15th floor. I made him sit on his bed. Even before we were entering the house, he told me, I think I'm going. And I was like, don't be ridiculous. A cough doesn't take away anybody. Come on. And I got him and I made him sit on the bed. And like he probably, they say that when it's time up, you probably just get those signs and signals. I gave him some warm water. He probably barely had his sip. He put his head on my chest, and that was it.
Okay.
I was still in denial. I did not accept it. I did not know it. I was all alone. We had just shifted a couple of months ago in a new building. I had no neighbors. I had nobody who I knew over here. Uh, there was no help, no immediate help that I could reach out to. That particular year, my brother was traveling, and my father had a fall, and his hand was in a fracture, and they couldn't come rushing immediately because otherwise my parents are my biggest support. My brother was away in Shimla. It took him 2 days to come down. I had no immediate neighbors to rush to run to, and being so involved and absorbed in my own little world of being with students, coaching them, counseling them, I did not pay too much attention to getting to know the security guard, or getting to figure out the neighborhood. I said eventually it will happen. And on that fatal day, I didn't know where to go, where to begin, what to do. And I think I just had enough presence of mind to call my mother and say that, Mom, I think after this call, I'm not going to be able to make calls to anybody. Please just inform my cousin and just let him know, and then let him take over from there. He will do the informing to the rest of the people. Both my sons were away. I have two sons who are away, and one was in Malaysia, then the other was in the US. It was a really tough time to have lost your soulmate, to have lost your husband, to have lost that person with whom you could fight over a cup of tea, you could complain to about your that you're tired, or that you have so much work to do, or that what happened or what didn't happen. That soulmate was no more. That soulmate just lay there lifeless. That very year, there was the French bombing that happened. My older son just couldn't come back. He spent close to 72 hours at the airports, going back and forth, trying to get onto some flight. Every flight was getting cancelled. And I was so agitated that I felt maybe my son is making excuses and he doesn't want to come back. It was my mindset at that point of time. I was in so much trauma. And I spoke to my son and I said, yes, maybe today, you don't feel the need to come, and maybe, you just want to say, it's okay, let my father go. He said, Mom, I love you and Dad beyond words. I just want you to know that there has been this French bombing, because of which all flights have been delayed, have been cancelled, and there's a lot of international turmoil that's on. I would give anything. If I had wings, I would fly to be with you. And I felt so horrible to have doubted my child, because he's been a very, very strong support even from the time he was a child. My youngest son came back the next day, so my husband had to wait in that state for 2 days till the family came down. And my oldest son finally sent a message from there. He said, Mom, it'll be 72 hours before I come or land. Let dad go in peace. I don't want to keep him there just like that in indignity. Let there be dignity in death. Let him just go. And that was the time where I had to stand up with no male members around, nothing, and make the decisions, from getting the ambulance to getting the ice box and the works. Well, those were things that happened in automation, because it's something that's the final goodbye. You do what you need to do at that point of time. The boys came down, and the boys were there after some time. It was second or third day after we had finished the last rites, and we had finished whatever that needed to be done. And the calls started plaguing me. Everybody claiming some money, some something. And I was like, what is this? Because every rupee that went out of the house, I was very aware of where it is going and to whom it is going. Suddenly, there are so many stakeholders. Oh, I am owed money, and this is there, and that is there. And then extended family had other requests for, the power of attorney and stuff like that, which was a very, very, very short notice, not having enough time even to mourn, understanding the trauma of being alone and having gone through this whole rigmarole by myself, having gone through this whole emotional, you know, ripping apart from within, then to have to go through being strong, stoic, holding yourself, putting on your mask, and answering everybody. Yes, I will look into it. Let me speak to my chartered accountant. Let me speak to my lawyers. Let me speak to this one. Let me speak to that one. And for a very meticulous guy, you know, he kind of probably didn't expect something like this to happen to him. Because who thinks that they will pass away in their early 50s? Everybody thinks they're going to live to a ripe old age. So there was no uh, legal papers in place. There was no will that was there that would say anything. And that was another whole rigmarole of establishing that I am his legally wedded wife, and that these two children are mine, and he's the father. You know, today in hindsight, I'm able to talk about it. But at that point of time, it was such a hard hitting blow to me. But the lawyer was very, firm, and was very gentle also. And she told me, she said, look, I know what you're going through, but the law is something that is for everybody. Lest there is some other heir, they should not be deprived, which is why we are going through this whole, rigmarole. And then I was like, okay, because I know my husband, and what she said is like, let's go through the legal way. But let me tell you, it was not easy at all. Not easy at all. Then comes the phase where you are without a husband, and then everybody thinks you are a piece of meat on the market, where people
Correct.
can come, and people can make, uh, you know, they can start saying things which are not dignified. They can start saying things to you that are not in keeping with your age, or in keeping with who are what you are. You have grown up sons. But that was the things that I experienced immediately after that. And it was so traumatic, so traumatic. Being a counselor, being a coach, I was finding it difficult to deal with this kind of mindset, this kind of societal behavior. Not immediate society where I live, but people, like, supposing there is somebody who's coming to deliver some goods, or who somebody in some way has got some connection with the family, making loose comments like I'm easy and available. It was not something that was very easy to take. And I'm sharing this because I know that there are many, many women like me who go through this. I stood strong through it all and I said, please back off, no nonsense. Don't even try it with me. I have neither the time nor do I have the inclination. And yes, if I do decide to choose another life partner, it will be my choice. I don't need to be, pitied. I don't need anybody's obligation, and I'm not frustrated in my life that I would want to go out with the next available person. So these are some of the stories that young women may not be able to share. One, I am a counselor. Two, I'm a coach. And three, I'm a woman who is now reached her prime in of age. And for me, it is easier to talk and share about these things, which I know that many, many women go through. And, you know, they experience the shame, this trauma, and they experience this not so healthy behavior from people outside, which is why so many women believe in just being like they are. My biggest support has come from my spiritual family, that is the Art of Living, where His Holiness Sister Bhanumati Narasimhan, she called me up and she told me, we call her Bhanu Didi with love. She called me and she said, women are like devis. They are female goddesses. So they have the strength of everything within them. You be bold and you carry on with life and you be like you are, like you have always been. Those words were such a solace to me that I felt that even though Didi comes from a very, very conservative background, she gave me such a bold and such a meaningful insight to my life. And that is something that I have learned, that as you are, so will the world accept you. If you go and become a victim of circumstances, people will start treating you like that. If you stand up and say, this is what I am, and that is how. Till date, I wear colorful clothes. Till date, I wear everything that connotes my feminism, my being a lady, a woman, be it jewelry, be it my bindi. In fact, I deal with a lot of international clients, and initially I was said that some people advise that would you want to do away with this probably and be a little more westernized in your look. I said I have no issues to wearing western clothes or any clothes for that matter, as long as I'm well covered. This is my signature trademark, and I'm not shy of it. I'm very happy and I'm very proud of carrying this on my forehead. And the scientific thing is, here is your pituitary glands. Women are very emotional. So when you put your bindi over here, that's what is said in the Vedic sciences, that when you put your bindi here, your emotions are in control, which is why whenever you're doing any religious thing, you always put a bindi over here because we tend to get carried away emotionally. So this is the beauty of my life. And then I decided that my life has anyways always been about giving. I was a counselor, then I became a coach, and I have always been a spiritually teacher for the last so many ever years. And I said that I'm going to devote my life to reaching out to people, to spreading happiness, to helping anybody who wants to take any support from an experienced woman, and take guidance like a motherly figure, like a sisterly figure, whatever you wish to call. And while I call myself motherly and sisterly, let me assure you that I still have a lot of young men who send me compliments, and it takes me a while to tell them that hello, I have sons as old as you guys. So it's beautiful that this journey has been, the ups and the downs of my marriage life and my life thereafter, I feel have been like what a jewel goes through when it gets made. It's put through the fire test to make it beautiful. what a diamond goes through, where it is, like there is so much polishing that happens to it, and there is so much that it goes through. And yet, when it's polished and it's shining brightly, everybody wants to wear it in their ring, or they want to wear it in their jewelry. I feel my life has been like that. Those were
That's
the days
amazing.
when it was difficult indeed to carry on, but I feel it's all enriched me. When you see a tree standing, you see that it's the trunk is there and it's standing there so majestically, and then it stood there for so many years and seen so many things come and go. So I feel that every incident that has happened in my life has just made me stronger, and it's my spiritual belief, it's my spiritual connection, the pranayams and the meditations that I do, which I feel really help. Being somebody who does a lot of meditations yourself, Narinder, you may agree with me and say that yes, indeed, that uh, meditations do help a lot.
Correct.
So earlier, when I was before my when I spoke about my family, there was this phase in life where my husband lost all his business, and he completely, from being, it was a stories of rags to riches, riches to rags. It went the other way round. For a man who was born with a golden and a diamond spoon, suddenly, uh, unstable market conditions, so much political uh, hindrance that was happening, and so many other things. We realized one thing, my younger son and me realized one thing, that my husband was a very intense artist, and both of us worked to giving him that uh, the canvas and his coal, and he became a very well known charcoal artist, where he would do his sketches on canvas. His life was very short between the time he became an artist and the time he lived. So probably God gave him those gifts which normally nobody who works with charcoal can work on canvas, because if anything goes wrong, you cannot change anything on the canvas. It becomes very difficult. People usually use plain paper as a medium, and he brought out some of the most beautiful spiritual figures in his sketches and paintings, and whoever saw it told me that he's a Hussein in making. But like they say that God wants the best people with him. He gives them a life. Maybe my husband's life was to fulfill that aspect of his painting, that creativity which God had blessed him with, and he did some of the most beautiful paintings. And I think after that, it was like his whole karma, his whole account had balanced out, and God said, "It's time for you to come." So it is difficult, but
I know what an emotional story, and then actually, I don't have any words to uh, actually describe.
Narinder, it's not easy to stand and be strong. Sometimes I tell my mother, have I got all dried up emotionally within me that, you know, because 3 months within my husband's death was my father's death. My
Yeah.
father passed away within 3 months because he loved his son in law so much. And of course, he loved his daughter equally, that he just couldn't bear to see that, his daughter, who was that bubbly, lively life of the family girl, would now have to live this bad life. And I had to be strong for him also and tell him, no, Dad, I'm going to be as I am. So, yes, being strong also requires a lot of grit. But when I see ordinary women around me who go through so much, like that lady who ran the marathon for her husband, women like you who have, I have read your stories and I've been hearing it. Each one of you is an inspiration. So I wanted to share my two bit of this life, because I felt that there are these many untold stories, this untold aspects of a normal family life. Her life is so normal. What is there? But yet within the normalcy is also so many loops. And so many normal women go through this, not able to voice it or share it. So I said, being a voice for all these women, I must share about it. And I'm blessed to have lots of wonderful friends who have helped me around, my mentors, Sat and Siri from the Alpha Stars Academy, who have also always been there to kind of propel me forward. My international coaches, Ajit Nawalkha and his wife, Neeta Bhushan, who also have been huge support. So I think,
That's so touchy. That's so emotional, and that's so beautifully told by you. I'm so grateful to you.
so,
And
Ritu, Narinder, before you say anything else, there's one more little thing I'd like to share is in
sure.
between all of this that happened, my boy went through a very major breakup. His emotional
Oh,
relationship broke up, and again for me, it was I had to put myself on the side and my needs on the side and be there to support and be there for my son. And I only told him this one thing. I said, remember, relationships come to us, to teach us something, to leave us with something. And if your relationship has come to an end, do not curse, do not feel bad, do not go down, which of course you will for a bit, but I only suggest to you or appeal to you that think of that person who has come in your life as a Buddha, who has come and taught you some beautiful life lessons, who has left you with some beautiful memories, and just cherish those beautiful memories and move on in life. So this was another thing. So while all my emotional turmoil was happening, I was more into turmoil and trauma as my children went through their bit of whatever it was happening. So I think
true.
that's my sharing for today. And I think I've spoken for a lot of women who lead ordinary lives, doing ordinary things. And each of these things that they go through is a part of their daily life, and yet it requires so much emotional courage.
You are one of them, and you have shown to the world that you are an inspiration to the whole world. The women who are listening over here, I really request everyone to listen to her story, and it's really grateful one. So, Nandaji, I want to ask you when the feelings get suppressed in itself, in a lady, in a woman, and you really have that emotions in yourself, then what should be done and how to overcome from it?
See, when you're dealing with trauma, what happens is that you go on an automation mode. So your mind shuts down, and you start. It's the way your body saves your brain. So you start working on an automation, but feelings are there deep within. Okay, feelings will not go anywhere because you are made up of feelings and emotions. It cannot go away. It's a part of you and your DNA. So they're always going to be there. But when you face multiple situations, one after the other, you keep suppressing, and then you start dealing with things in a very cold manner, that okay, this has happened very practically, okay, this has happened. I saw myself doing that, and I told myself that as a human being, I'm blessed to be able to emote. I am blessed to be able to cry, and there is no harm and no shame in crying. And if I allow myself to cry, I'm allowing a lot of venting to happen. And heart specialists have been telling us this, that do not suppress and keep. Cry it out, share it out, talk it out. It took me a while to learn, but eventually I learned, and which is why today also I've been so open to share about my life, so open to talking about what it has been like, you know and it's not that I mean disrespect or anything to anybody. It's merely that I want women to understand that if we decide to stand up and take charge of our lives, we can. I have balanced my in-laws, I have balanced my parental family, I have balanced my individual family, I've balanced my friends. Woman is somebody, that is why devis are prayed to, or they're worshipped because they're depicted with 8 hands. Women are also multitasking. So this depicts a woman, form of a woman, that she's multitasking so many things and she's doing. So when we allow emotions to come up and let it pass, then you are able to move on in life and lead a more healthy and normal life. It's okay to cry. Even if there is nobody to wipe your tears, doesn't matter, just cry it out. And
That's
another
amazing.
thing I feel is that, Narinder, it's so important to love ourselves. One
Exactly.
thing that I did was, I always reminded myself after beloved, Bhanu Didi, His Holiness's sister, told me that, you carry on with your life. Then I always reminded myself, I need to love myself. My husband would, he treated me like a queen. So I said that love for myself must continue. And my children treat me equally with love and respect. They are standing head and toe for anything that I need. So that happens when you love yourself so much that, from within, you are able to give it out to people all around you. As much as you take it from the people to within you, also, if you love yourself, you're able to give it out to people so wholeheartedly, so lovingly. So
Correct.
I think loving ourselves is equally important, because that allows us the space to be strong. Otherwise, we're looking for external help, we're looking for external support, and sometimes these expectations may not be met. We may feel let down.
That's amazing. So, as a psychologist, counselor, what kind of people comes to you, and what are their problems actually? What kind of problems they come with?
Ritu, I have got my master's in human development. So every aspect from birth to my, you know, the kind of work that I do. But like I said earlier to somebody, that I have spent a good 7 years in working with on relationships with people. People have so many misunderstandings, people have so many issues when they come to their when it comes to their interaction, that after a point of time it just becomes like they cannot stand the same person they so loved and they so cared about. So that is an aspect that uh, a lot of people have come to me, a lot of corporates have come to me to ask about, how do we do team building, how do we be good leaders without allowing our team to start taking advantage of us and kind of, bunk or come late and do those kind of things. So these have been some of the crux issues where, I have been working with leaders also, and earlier I've worked with on personal relationships for a good 3 4 years, maybe 7 years almost. I was working with the college, engineering college, and in the engineering college again, because the whole semester system and this whole education for them academics is so tough that they tend to go haywire. So you would have situations like excessive smoking, maybe getting into, not good habits, self-destructive habits. So all of that, and even in that would be breakups, even in that would be a lot about relationships. A lot of young people are getting into premarital relationship these days, which has been
Correct.
evolving as a trend, as a concept in our country, where we've always believed in marriages as being the most important aspect. But these days, I saw many young people getting into relationships and intimate relationships, and sometimes they would not be emotionally prepared for that. They would not be prepared to give that intimate relationship uh, a larger lifespan, where they would finish their education and continue and do. So these were all the short term relationships where it was all about the teenagers getting excited or going out of control. So that needed a lot of sound counseling, making them understand. then coaching them to know and understand what really all of this is all about. Why is it that early relationship and getting into it does not work for us? Because our young men are still dependent on the families till much later, wherein abroad in the Western countries the whole culture is such that about 13, 14 years, or maybe a little later, around 15 years, 16 years, they all start moving out of home. And so the entire way of life over there is different. A lot of young people try to take in from there, but it's difficult to manage because they're still not independent financially, and they're not even emotionally ready. So these are some of the aspects that I've been working with. And women come to me with all the stories that I shared about being indignified things happening to them, which they do not know how to deal with, and they don't even know how to voice it to their parents or to somebody. So those were also areas where I've supported and helped people.
And do you give consultations, or what kind of a therapies or you use?
Yes, I do both. I use consultations, talk to them, we do a question answer format. I also use therapies like the transactional analysis is something I use. Behavioral therapy is something that I use. Rapid transformation therapy is something I use. But in the coaching, it's different. I am a master NLP practitioner also, so I do a lot of in the coaching aspects. I do work with the NLP tools more than anything else.
Wonderful. So, um, recently I have just seen your intensive workshop training is which is coming on I think 6th of December. So, can you tell
Yes.
us more about that?
Yes, thank you for asking, Narinder. These workshops are done by me and my fellow coach, my buddy Uzma Sheikh Jamal, who is a brilliant young lady who, really surpasses women of her age when it comes to understanding the nuances of human behavior. Between the two of us, we have started this mission. We met each other at one of the sessions where we had gone to take a training, and we both realized we share the passion of communication skills. Today, Narinder, in the digital world, it's so important to communicate clearly because you have only that much time for you to be able to put across what you want to convey to your customers, to your clients, or the people you're dealing with. So today, more than the domain skill, people are looking for communication skills to be, taught to people, or for them to polish their communication skills, and that is something Uzma and me both are very, very passionate about. Coach Uzma and me love to teach people the way to talk, how body language says something, and how your speech says something else. So you have to be so very careful about being in congruency when you're talking, like your body language and what you're speaking should all feel like it's in sync and not look like your face is something and your body is something. So somebody something like where I say I love you, there's nothing on my face that connotes that I mean the love. So when
Correct.
you're saying something like this, or anything for that matter, it is so important that we speak and say things in a way wherein what you're saying and the way your body is carrying it is all in sync. And
That
that
has
is
to be
what we're
congruent.
passionate about, teaching young leaders and young people who are on their way upwards, maybe who are just into corporate life, or who are young leaders who are just climbing up and going up. So, those are some of the things that we are working towards.
Wonderful. That's very much needed in the today's world. And I request all of you to attend their workshop. It's really very intensive. I have attended, and it gives up best results. And they are the best teachers.
6th, yes, 6th
And
December at 4 p.m. we go on with the workshop. This time we're taking on relationships, on
Wow.
how, when
Hot
you're
topic,
talking.
huh?
Yes, because even in relationships, the kind of communication that is involved, the kind of thinking patterns, how a man thinks, how a woman thinks, what really happens, how somebody perceives some things, and why the relationship goes wrong. Some very beautiful tools we are going to be using to give people, a treasure of takeaways. So we request whoever
Amazing.
is there listening to us, do join in for the workshop and experience it. This is the
That's
mission
fun.
where we are on, where we want to put young people at par, whether they are Indian young people or they are people from across the world. Young people are struggling to make a niche for themselves. It's only when
Correct.
you reach your 40s and your 45s that you feel established, which is why we want to work with the younger generation and bring them up right from the beginning to give them a beautiful confidence and a niche for themselves. I'm very
Amazing.
happy that Narinder Kaur, you have given us this platform to share and express about my thoughts as a woman, and also what is it that I do and how it is that I reach out to people. I so thank you for this, for the Women Power Unleashed. You truly are into getting women to the power to unleash their power.
Thank you so much. Thanks a lot. And what message you want to give to the women of the world today?
My message to the women of the world, I already shared in between as I was saying it. I will say it again now as a clear message. All my wonderful ladies out there, the way you treat yourself, the way you see yourself, is how the world is going to see you. Your world is made up of your own thoughts. So, how you see yourself, how you see anything in this world at all, is how people are going to receive you. So just have that faith and courage within yourself. I know the journey is not always very easy. I know sometimes we have to really, jump across big boulders that come in between. But we are women. We are the superpower and we can do it.
Wow. Such a beautiful message to the whole world Nandaji has given. And one message from my side to Nandaji, especially, and to everybody. The most authentic thing about us is our capacity to create, to overcome, to endure, to transform, to love, and to be greater than our suffering. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much, Nandaji, for coming on this show. It was really, really very touchy and a heart touching story. And a lot of people are listening to us. Thank you, all the listeners. To listen and know more about the inspirational stories, please like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. And to book one to one clarity sessions, please visit the website. Have a great day. Take care. See you soon.
Thank you so much.